And the main character, Hamlet, says these words, that there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than is dealt with in our philosophy. In other words, there's more to existence than what we ordinarily sense. Many people still feel that if they can't experience it with their senses, if they can't see it, or hear it, or touch it, or smell it, or feel it, they won't believe it. And it's unfortunate, because if all the world were like that, we would be really back in the Dark Ages still. And in fact, some parts of the world still are. But we were given a mind and an imagination and an ability to think and to feel beyond what we can ordinarily experience. And that opens up a whole realm of things, of possibilities. You know, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, a lot of things were felt to be purely myths, purely imagination, purely fanciful. And yet today, many of those are realities. If you had told someone from 200 years ago that you'd be able to watch pictures in your own home, or communicate to anywhere in the world from your house, if you had a cell phone or the internet, they'd think you were touched. Badly touched. Today, those are all realities that we take for granted. And we take them for granted, and they exist because people have thought outside the box of their ordinary realities and experience. If you can't do that, if you can't accept the fact that there's more to this worldly existence, more to this universe than what you can just experience with your senses, you'll never understand or accept the Bible. Because the Bible deals with what is outside our everyday experience.
Yes.
This is Pentecost Sunday. And this is the Sunday which commemorates the day when the Holy Spirit came upon the apostles in the upper room.
Yes.
And if you really have to really believe that, you have to accept the fact that there was a mighty rushing wind and there were tongues of fire on their heads. And that is outside the experience of our normal senses. You have to get to the point of John in Revelation where he sees the throne room. This great throne room, this great Sardis and Jasmine edifice with this emerald rainbow and a sapphire sea and all the thrones around it. You have to be able to experience and think of this and imagine it and believe it in order for it to be really realistic to you. Some people say it's science fiction. Well, when this was written, science fiction wasn't even discovered. And besides, to get a complete presentation of the throne, you have to go also to Ezekiel and to Isaiah to get the three-dimensional picture of this area. And science fiction is not written by a committee. It's not written by a committee over 600 years. And in addition, you won't get the full picture even then, unless you go beyond those three people to the Jewish sages. Because John doesn't mention the 7 majestic angels which surround the throne. The angels of Gabriel and Michael and Raphael and Uriel and Suniel and Singapel and Sandoel. The angels which are mentioned further on in Revelation as the 7 angels of the trumpets. You see, you have to think outside the box to believe. It says in Joel 2 that young men and women will prophesy. Daughters will prophesy. Young men will dream dreams. will have visions. Old men will dream dreams. You have to dream dreams in order to think outside the box. You have to dream and have visions to think of what can be. Because what we feel today is myth and fantasy may very well be real tomorrow. And what it says in the Bible is not myth. It's true. There are more things in heaven and earth that are dealt with in our philosophy. Paul understood that when he went to the third heaven. It says, I know such a man, that he was caught up into paradise and heard unspeakable words, which it is not lawful for a man to utter. He experienced something outside of his normal reality. In 1 Corinthians 2, it says this. It says that ear has not heard, eye has not seen, heart has not understood the things that God has in store for those who love Him. The corollary is also true. Ear has not heard, nor has eye seen, nor has heart understood the things God has in store for those who do not love Him. Revelation tells us that. Someday we will see the throne. Someday we will see God. Someday we will see that the myths that people believe today are the realities of tomorrow. If we believe and accept and are willing to think outside the box. There are truly more things in this universe than are dealt with in our philosophies. Just something to think about.